Welcome to Streets and Eats, the podcast where we want to inspire your next trip by telling you about some fantastic destinations and the best food to eat while you're there. On this episode of Streets and Eats, Corinne and I are going to talk about all the lessons we learned over the last month traveling in the Western and Midwestern states, pulling a trailer.
With the pandemic and the loss of travel, we wanted to keep as much as possible to ourselves when we're traveling, being able to distance ourselves enough that we're not always staying in hotels. And we thought the best way to do that, like pretty much everyone else in the states right now, is to get an RV. So then we had to decide what kind of RV to get. And after we did that, we bought it. We bought a 23-foot trailer and a new car to pull it. And it's very comfy and cozy. But let me tell you, that learning curve is steep.
Kind of like some of the passes we went over. Yeah, your favorite.
More about that later.
Well, okay, let's get right into it. So first off, why did we buy a trailer? Well, a while back, a long while back, I think, we had a truck with a slide-in camper, and we loved that thing. We traveled all over Alaska with that thing. Super comfortable. We'd get up in the morning. We'd make baked blueberry muffins. Whether it was raining or snowing or sleeting outside, it really didn't matter.
We were cozy, we were warm, and it never gets so hot in Alaska where we had to try and use air conditioning, but we were always comfy.
Yeah.
And the whole family was there, so it was pretty good.
And we all just loved it.
So the new thing today is getting an RV, and a lot of younger people are getting vans. Well, here's the thing. We had to rule out van pretty much right away. In our advancing age, we have decided that A, we don't want to sleep on the ground. Okay, you don't do that in a van, so that wasn't...
Van would work for that.
The van would work for that. But B and C, I need a toilet that's very accessible. I'm kind of done with getting out in the middle of the night and going to find the local campground toilet. The latrine, whatever it is, the pit toilet. I like having my own space, and I do it enough in the middle of the night at this point in my life that I don't want to get up 3 or 4 times and have to negotiate getting out of the van and finding the place, worrying about wildlife, which wherever we go, there's always wildlife.
Did you remember your toilet paper?
And yeah, all of that. So it's just kind of nice to be able to get up in the middle of the night and go in your own spot.
And I'm guessing your C is a shower.
And the C was the shower.
Yeah.
I mean, that is more doable with a van, because if you don't mind taking communal showers all the time, that's fine. But as anyone knows who's traveled around the United States and Canada, maybe even Mexico, whatever, that the differences in shower quality are beyond imagination.
We're not just talking the quality of the water. We're talking the quality of the whole room.
Yeah, I mean, is it clean?
Wet, moldy?
What do you want to wear on your
dirty
feet while you're washing? Yeah. I mean, there's so many factors that come into it, and
we just wanted to have our own.
Wimpier nowadays. I mean, I've done that. I've been there. I've done that. I have slatrined it. I have gone in public showers. And to have to wash for days on end. I've done it. I don't know if I need to continue to do it.
Well,
I can check those things right off my list.
And not all campgrounds have showers.
Yeah. So
we knew we wanted a bed, we wanted a toilet, and we wanted a shower that you could use.
So anyway, with those 3 things in mind, we decided a van is out. It's just a little bit too small. The ones that we looked at that did have showers and bathrooms were completely claustrophobic. And that runs into a whole new phobia that we don't even need to get into. But they were also exorbitantly priced.
Overpriced.
They were like $120,000 for a van. That's too much. That's just too much. So van out. So then that leaves us between a driving RV and a trailer. And really, it came down to one major factor, is that as much as we are embarking on this new adventure in general, and we're going to leave a larger footprint, we want that footprint to be as small as possible. We want to save gas. We don't want to be those gas hogs that go out there and use all the gas. And really, one of the major differences between the RV and the trailer is the amount of gas that you can save.
Right, because when you're pulling a trailer, we're probably getting about the same gas mileage, a little bit better than most of the
I think a little
Class
better.
A's or Class C's that I looked at. A little bit better, but still not great gas mileage.
Right.
But once you disconnect the trailer, now
You're just driving a car.
you're just driving the vehicle that pulls the trailer. And we went with a larger, kind of a mid to large SUV, the Dodge Durango, with a V8 engine. It's got plenty of power. The specs are all there to pull our trailer. And, that was a lot of research. But once we got all that figured out, when we disconnect the trailer, now we're driving a nice, comfortable Dodge Durango. It's still not stupendous gas mileage.
It's not the best gas mileage.
But
not a
it's
Tesla.
better than a truck, and it's better than a Class A or a Class C RV is going to get driving around town.
And the whole idea of the trailer, too, is that, you can drop it. Let me tell you, there's nothing worse than trying to drive a trailer through the middle of town looking for a parking spot.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in depth a little bit later, but the reality is, with the truck and trailer that we have, we go directly to our campsite, we unhook it, and then we're free. And yet we can come back to that comfort at night and really have, quote unquote, a hotel room that's all ours.
Right. Which is really nice.
So,
and comfortable. And it has a shower and a toilet.
yeah. So there you go. A trailer and tow vehicle was the way for us to go.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And on top of that, price-wise was an amazing difference as well. So the van was exorbitant. The trailer was okay. And the car to pull it was a little bit pricey too. But we didn't have to mortgage
No.
this package. You could if that was what you needed to do, but we didn't want to. That's not something that's in our lexicon for right now. So we did not mortgage it. We basically bought them and their hours. And if we had bought a driving RV, again, the prices would have been up there around $120,000, $130,000, which again is another mortgage. So
we couldn't get into that. And we could have, you can compare a driving RV, a Class A or a Class C, and pulling a car. And then you get the advantage of having that car once you parked, which is the advantage that we were going for. But the price is huge. The price difference is huge.
the price difference is amazingly huge. We're talking $60,000 difference.
Yeah.
And so, for $60,000, I think it was well worth learning the steep learning that it took to drive the trailer and how to deal with it, which is what we're going to talk about now.
Okay. Well, let's just real quick, we'll run down the major points of why we chose the trailer. So obviously,
You want to recap?
yeah, a little recap,
Okay, we could do that.
just because we tend to wander a lot when we're speaking.
Who? Us?
Yeah.
No, it's kind of like the way we travel.
Okay, so we knew we wanted to get out there and spend some time in this beautiful country, and camping is a good way to do that.
And we love our national parks.
And we love to camp, but frankly, we also love our bathrooms and our beds
And our toilets.
and our toilets. Well, that's the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. I want
okay.
to reiterate, I love a good toilet.
So the trailer is perfect for any weather. It's got AC, it's got heat, it's waterproof. Don't have to worry about closing up a wet tent.
It's windproof, as we found out.
The convenience you get from having your vehicle after you drop off the trailer is priceless. We definitely got more for our money. Better gas mileage.
In the long run.
In the long run.
And when you take the whole trip into consideration, the gas mileage is definitely better.
Yeah. That's our recap.
Yeah. So those are the reasons that we went with the trailer. But let me tell you, buying the trailer is only the first step. Okay, so this is a little tricksy. They get you in there. You know what you want. You've done the research.
You better have done your
You've
research.
asked your questions of the agent. You've done your due diligence in your mind. So then you think, I'm going to put my faith in this. I'm going to buy this trailer. And then you find out, oh, and by the way, the trailer doesn't come with those hoses and
Cables.
hitches and cables. And I don't even know
Chocks.
what. Chocks.
Leveling blocks. The list goes on and on.
And
tools.
so they give you, as part of the sales price, they give you an allowance.
Yeah.
Well, but the idea is that then you're going to go into their store and you're going to buy this whole list of stuff that they suggest you have. And of course, their allowance pays for a tenth of
nothing.
it.
So the allowance for our RV was a $75 certificate that we could spend in their parts department, like you said.
It gets you.
Well, that bought us the sewage hose, the water hose, and
part of. I thought it was only part of the water hose.
Yeah, so I bought the sewage hose and the water hose, and that's all I bought there.
And you still had to pay a little out of pocket.
I still had to pay like $10 extra.
Yeah. And those you would say, wait a minute, sewage hose, water hose, those seem like...
Shouldn't that come with it?
Those are integral parts of the trailer that you cannot live without. No, anyway.
You can't live without them, but no, they're not. They're not included.
They're not
So
included.
you got to buy those. So that's what we did. I spent that $75. Got those two things.
Went
but
to a
we
cheaper
knew we
store.
needed more.
Yeah.
And Amazon, of course, can't be beat for prices. And if you're military or ex-military like me, Lowe's, Home Depot, all those places have veterans discount.
So they have... Anyway, so there's places with discounts, sales.
And they have some RV stuff,
Amazon.
not a lot, but...
There's lots of ways that you do not have to spend exorbitant amounts of money on the other stuff, even though, of course, it all is going to add up to, gosh, at least another couple of $1,000s.
But
at least.
I guess the bottom line here is you get your RV, and this is the same for any RV, whether it's a trailer or a van or a Class A, Class C. You need these other things, but there's no real good checklist on what you absolutely need to have or should have. The parts department, they did have
yeah, they had
you could buy their gold kit for
the gold kit, the silver kit, the bronze kit. You know how it goes.
So I kind of used that as a guide, but I still knew I didn't need everything on that list. But do all the research. You try to figure out everything you can. You look at people's lists until you get out there and start doing it.
Yeah.
You don't really know what you don't know.
There were things. We even took the trailer out on a weekend before we went on our big trip.
Right.
Because we wanted to see, what do we need? But, one weekend, you still don't get to feel it all. So we still end up buying things as we were on our month-long trip. But that's okay. It's just part of here's part of RV life. Then they give you a lesson. Now, I did not go to this lesson because I was with the grandbaby, but Jim...
They give you this nice walk around, and they run through all the different controls and how to do this and how to do that. And I videotaped the whole thing because there's a lot to learn. And, they do give you a manual, but the manual that came with our trailer, at least, wasn't specific to our model. It was the basic manual for venture RVs in general, travel trailers. So, it doesn't really go into details on stuff. And the guy who gave me the walk around did a really good job. If I wanted him to stop and repeat something and let me film it better, he would do that. So I felt pretty good going out of that.
Little did we know, there was a lot to learn that was not even mentioned. Well, as it turns out, the very first time Jim tried to drop the trailer or put the trailer on.
Dropping the trailer.
We couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. We had to go to the dealer to find out what we did wrong or call the dealer.
I called him. And as I was talking to him, I figured out what I was doing wrong. It was just some really stupid thing.
The point is, it's not easy to begin with. You really need to practice to really get it down. And so we did.
Yeah.
And we finally got out on the road, and we were having a blast, really. I did not drive the trailer because I am a wimp. So this pretty much falls to Jim to do. But meantime, I hope, I'm in the back seat or the side seat.
Cringing.
Saying, you're going too fast. It's starting this way. There's someone coming up on your right. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a help. Maybe it's not. But he puts up with me, so.
Well, and it's just a different feeling. Being in a car or a truck or whatever, pulling a trailer, doesn't feel the same as just cruising down the road at 80 miles an hour when that's the speed limit.
Yeah, you're not going to go 80.
Well, a lot of people do, but I don't recommend it. There's no reason to. You're going to get where you're going if you drive a little slower. You're going to feel more comfortable. And you know what? The rest of the world, if they need to pass you by, they pass you by. If they don't, they go along with you. So we were pretty comfortable with that. I was pretty comfortable with the feeling of the trailer. I've done a lot of towing of stuff with work in the past, so I know what it feels like. On the other hand, every little twitch or clank or whatever, oh my gosh, and you got a lot better by the end.
There's still some things that bother me, though, for sure.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit scary. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you learn. That's part of the learning. That's part of the getting used to a new way of travel, I suppose.
Yeah, and the research that you do doesn't really prepare you for actually being in the car.
Well, you read a lot, and maybe this is part of the problem, actually. You read tons about tow vehicles not being strong enough, and then the wind comes along, takes your trailer, and flips it. So I had read...
Well, you only read all the bad stuff.
A lot.
Because that's what makes all the headlines.
That's right. And so maybe that was part of my problem. Maybe my research was getting in my way a little bit. But, we did buy good sway bars and a good hitch. So that definitely makes a big difference.
Yeah.
We spent more money on those because, it's like anything else in life. You've got to have balance and you've got to decide, do I want to have the most expensive hitch and sway bars that are going to be safer? Or do I want to, just go with
hook it up to the ball and
be done with it.
Hope for the best.
Yeah, well, we wanted safety.
Well, I've known at least one person personally who went out, took I think it was a Suburban, went to the dealer, said, I want to buy this 34-foot trailer. They hooked it up for him. He drove off, got about 10 miles down the road.
No, it wasn't 10. It was 70 miles. He just told me this summer.
70 miles down the road and rolled it.
First day.
No sway bars. Not really, probably going way too fast for the road conditions. That wasn't going to be us.
That was not going to be us. All right, but here's some of the things that we learned. First of all, you can't research enough. Even though I say research may have gotten in my way a little bit, it's like anything else. You've got to research, and then you've really got to have a good idea of what is important to you.
Okay, I got one last thing on research. I think we've kind of beat that to death. However, I think it's really important to know that when you go into a trailer or an RV or camper dealer, whatever you're buying, it's really up to you to make sure that what you are buying is going to be safe to tow or to carry on your vehicle.
Yes.
They'll sell you anything you want.
If you say you want that, they're going to sell it to you. And they're not going to worry. Now, you had a little glimpse of this when you pulled up in the Durango and they said, is that your tow vehicle? And they didn't believe you could tell by the guy's reaction that he wasn't sure that was a great tow vehicle for what we bought. But Jim,
for anything. But
Jim had done a really good job with making sure that it was. And we made sure that we had the tow package built into the car before it came off of production, as opposed to being put on afterwards.
That met the specs that we needed.
Yeah.
And actually what we ended up buying was lower than any of the specs that the car is capable of.
So
we were
okay
good
with that.
But he kind of raised his eyebrows and said, oh, really? A Durango? So it got the V8, that whole thing that guys do about cars, right? I'm like, yeah. But he wasn't going to say,
you should not have bought
that's not going to work.
Yeah, so he wasn't going to say that.
That's on the buyer.
That's totally on the buyer. Okay, so getting past.
So research, you can't do enough.
But I wasn't just talking about that. I'm talking about research in general for your trip and everything.
For the whole trip.
Because you cannot be too spontaneous.
Right.
You can be spontaneous. Jim and I are we are spontaneous through and through. No matter what our plan is, it will not stay the same. I guarantee no matter what our plan is, it's going to change.
And our travel philosophy is kind of runs along the lines of, do what you want to do, take advantage of what you have. Things are going to work out.
Well, not just that, but also no matter how much research you do, again, you're going to miss things.
Yeah.
There's things that pop up everywhere. I'm going to use one example. the largest frying pan. Okay, do you know where it is? Well,
Largest
I
frying pan
didn't.
in North America.
In North America.
Not in the
I
world.
didn't know where it was. It's in Iowa, and we went there. But it wasn't on the plan? No.
Of course not.
Of course not, because A, we had never heard of it, and B, we had never heard of it.
But what is on the plan is anything like that.
Yeah.
Any superlative, the largest rocking chair.
But not just that, anything that we want to do. We're very good, and we've really honed this skill, I believe, of saying, oh, that's something I want to do. Let's do it. We try as much as possible. We try not to let an opportunity pass us by.
However, in this day and age,
You can't be that spontaneous.
You can't be that spontaneous. You have to have room for that kind of stuff.
We have to build it in. But not just that. Now we have this Durango in this trailer that we've got to pull, right? And we thought, okay, we load up the trailer, we drive from point A to point B, which is the campsite, we drop it, we go off. Well, guess what? As you're driving down any highway in the United States, any interstate, any highway, there are these little brown signs.
These damn brown signs.
That are our bane of existence. We love them and hate them because
we have a love-hate relationship.
We have a hard time passing them by. If there is something on one of those brown signs, it must be something that we need to do. That's not always the case, and we don't always fall for it, but more than likely we will.
If we have the time, and it sounds interesting,
we're going to stop.
John Wayne's birthplace.
Yes!
International Quilt Museum.
Right!
Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So that means so what happened is we did not drive point A to point B. We drove from point A on the way to point B and said, oh, there's a brown sign. It's something we want to do. Yep, put on that blinker. We're turning off. We turned off. Then we're in the middle of this place that we hadn't researched at all because we didn't know about it. We didn't plan on it. And
can we drive there with a trailer? Is there a place to park? And you just kind of deal with those things. So you can't, on one hand, you really can't be as spontaneous as you'd like to be because you can't just rock in there with a trailer without some idea of where you're going to park, or can you get in and out? Are you going to get into a position where you got to back out, which you don't want?
Which we did do on a mountain not too long ago.
But at the same time, you want to have that ability to be spontaneous. So what we learned was, as far as spontaneity goes, build in some extra time in your travel time. Just so you're aware.
And we used it every day.
So you have it. And we did. And
if we hadn't used it, we would have been in a campground earlier where we could relax and
explore the area
or have a campground.
So it's a win-win either way.
So just know that you can't have such a smushed, packed itinerary that you don't have room for spontaneity, especially if you like to take advantage of what might come by.
Those roadside attractions that you've never heard of. Well, and along with that idea of spontaneity is right now, this summer, and I would guess next summer too, and maybe from now on,
forever, we don't know.
You can't just roll around with a RV, tent, whatever, camping, and expect to just pop into any campsite and get a site.
Just like with hotels we found earlier on this summer. You can't just have a road trip where you say, we used to do this all the time. Our first night we might have planned, but then after that, we would just sort of say,
wherever we're at, we'll find a place.
We'll find a place. And that always worked for us. That's not working nowadays.
No.
You need to plan your hotels. You need to plan your campgrounds.
Especially if you're going to be near a national park or if you want to be in the national park. You've really got to make those reservations.
Oh, the national park,
as far out as you can, whatever they allow, you want to make that reservation.
So that means if you're listening to this for this summer, which is almost over, then you need to start planning for next summer. Where do you want to go? And what reservations do you need in national parks? Because really that's going to be the most beautiful way to do it. And you want to take advantage of that.
And even if those are the only reservations you make, you can base the rest of your trip around those dates that you do have reserved. So we didn't have reservations for every night of our camping trip, but
which we found out later we didn't enjoy.
We didn't enjoy what?
Well, we ended up getting a $300 hotel room one night.
Well, yeah, that was the night we couldn't find anything.
There was nothing.
There was no hotels. There was no camping spots. Who knew that in Rapid City was that?
That was in Rapid City, South Dakota.
Who knew that in Rapid City, South Dakota on a Monday night, there'd be no room in the inn?
Well, we didn't.
We didn't know that, but there wasn't. Yeah. And we could have, we got this trailer. We could have parked in a Walmart parking lot.
But we were newbies at this, and probably we should have done that.
Well, and we'd also been on the road for several days. And
feeling yucky
at this point. And yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We just know that you need to make reservations.
Make your reservations.
It'll lessen your stress level while you're on the road. And anything to do with that is obviously better. So I was reading in some of the forums, and a lot of people who drive RVs have this driving and staying rule of thumb, where let's say you drive 4 hours this day. So if you drive from 4 hours from point A to point B, then that means that when you get to point B, you want to park that RV or park the trailer for 4 days and experience the area for 4 days. I personally think that's a pretty good rule of thumb. However, depending on what you're doing, the way Jim and I travel is so far and wide that it's probably not quite enough. We probably need to do like 6 to 8 hours in 4 days. Yeah. But still, you've come up with your own rule of thumb as far as not going below that. As we started planning for this trip, we planned to stay everywhere at least 2 nights. And I'm going to tell you right now, that was not enough. It didn't really work.
With a trailer, it's just too much. It's too much travel and not enough camping.
There wasn't really, we didn't do much camping at all on this trip because we just didn't have time. We were too busy being tourists in the towns that we went to. And like we said, stopping at spontaneous places that we hadn't planned on to begin with.
But yeah, I think kind of what we came up with by the end of this was, like you said, a 6 to 8 hour drive. In our setup, that's very comfortable and very doable. And then for at least 4 nights, 4 days, 4 nights, I would say 4 nights, that gives you a full.
Right. That gives you 3 full days. But really, I mean, the longer, everybody knows this, the longer you can stay in a place, the more you're going to get out of it.
So that would be our minimum, I would say.
Yeah. Going forward, that's what we're going to try for. Doesn't mean it'll always work, but that's what we're going to try for.
Yeah. But of course, that doesn't mean our plan to drive 6 to 8 hours is a full 6 to 8 hour drive.
No.
It's a 6 to 8 hour day of driving with, what are we going to stop and see along the way?
Or also, when you're driving, I don't know about the rest of the world, but my GPS tells me, okay, I'm going from point A to point B. It's going to take 4 hours and 43 minutes. Well, not with a trailer, it isn't, because we can't go the speed limit as everybody else.
I'm not willing to.
Especially when the speed limit's 80. Now, when the speed limit was 55, 60, we 65. Could keep up with that up to 65.
Even 70 if the roads were good.
Yeah, but
no problem.
It didn't matter. Every single day, if it started out at like 4.5 hours, it would take us 5.5 to 6 hours. Yeah. Which is okay. I mean, that's because we had to stop for lunch, go to the bathroom,
get gas.
Get gas. So all the stops, plus just the fact that we're pulling a trailer and we're not going to be as daredevil-y, maybe, as speedy as.
And I don't know how Google Maps does it. I think Google Maps looks at who all's using Google Maps for that route and bases the time on how fast they're going. Like an average. Well, most people driving their cars down the interstates are going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Yeah, well, we were not, I don't think we ever sped.
So the better way to do it, I wouldn't say never, but so the better way to do it is to use your GPS, use Google Maps, whatever you're using, get the distance, and then get a good feeling for what your average speed is going to be.
And figure it out the old-fashioned way.
Our driving average on highways, interstates was 55 to 60 miles an hour. So just do a little bit of math and you can come up with a lot closer of what your expected driving time is.
What I've always used, even before GPS, was 50 miles per
50.
hour because that just is easy. It tells you you're going to be driving twice the amount of 100 miles. So 2 hours for 100 miles.
And it builds in the time for
stopping
for food or gas or
and it seems to work out
maybe
pretty
an
good.
attraction or two.
But just know that Google Maps is not going to give you correct times. That's pretty important.
So what else do we learn?
So Jim alluded to this a little bit earlier. We live in the Pacific Northwest. Let me tell you something.
It's beautiful.
We love it here. It's beautiful. You know why it's beautiful? There are mountains.
Those mountains are amazing.
There are mountains everywhere.
Mountains to the west of us. Mountains to the north of us.
Mountains to the south of us. Oh my gosh. Now, what's the problem with the mountains when you're pulling a trailer? There are these 5% grades, 6% grades, 2-lane roads, trucks, Mack trucks who can't make it up the hill. Chugga, 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 chugga. They get to the crest. Watch out. They're going to be speeding down that hill.
No brakes. We're heading down.
Oh my gosh.
Save some
it
gas.
is terrifying. I was so scared.
Okay, you have a bit of a phobia for
I
downhill
do have
anyway.
a phobia. It's true. A very logical
Maybe
phobia.
we'll share that story someday,
But I do have a phobia. There's no question about it. But what we found was literally that if you were following a truck up a hill and it couldn't quite make it, your first inclination is to pass that truck. The problem is, once you got to the crest of the hill, they were going to pass you again. So it was like, oh, let me pass the truck. Oh, let the truck pass me. Oh, no. I couldn't get into that. These big trucks beside me all the time. So we decided.
So for peace of mind.
Yes, for peace of mind especially.
What we found worked best was, there's a couple of different cases. Well, first of all, our Durango pulling our trailer, there was no hill.
We never had a problem
that we
pulling.
couldn't get up going the speed limit or better. That wasn't the issue. Like you said, the issue is the trucks, whether you're going to go around them. I'm not going to go down a mountain pass, 5-6% grade or more.
Well, pulling a
with
trailer
curves, pulling a trailer 70 miles an hour with crosswinds and everything else. That's just stupidity. So I'm going to take it easy going downhill. Most trucks do as well, but there are those that don't, and they will just get in the lane and zip right on by, forget the consequences. So going up the hill, if it was pretty early on, I would pass the truck. If we were near the top and they weren't going like ridiculously slow, I would just follow them and then get over the hill. They would speed up and be gone.
Exactly.
That was the calmest, easiest way to do it. So that's kind of how we attacked the mountain passes.
And there are a lot of mountain passes. We live in a gorgeous country, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. But I guess this is another place where you have to be just try it and see what works for you. We saw too many people having problems if they tried to pass or go too fast. So
yeah,
that was not us. We would get to the campground, and then one of the things we found out, but I think this is true no matter what kind of camping you do, splitting up the chores is vital. Everybody kind of gets into their routine. I think we got it down to being set up within 20 minutes, and then setting up the next day was a little longer because you have to dump and you have to do all this other stuff. So that probably was more like 30, 35 minutes. But we were getting it down to some pretty good numbers. And that was really nice with us splitting up the different chores and having a good idea of what we needed to do.
Yeah, we figured out
ready.
Pretty early on, who was going to do what. And then you just stick with that same routine every time and it goes pretty smoothly.
Okay, so one of the things that we found out was that state campgrounds are probably our favorite. You have all different kinds of campgrounds. You have a campground like on BLM, Bureau of Land Management, or Forest Service that have zero hookups, zero anything. They're just sites. And there's no reservations or anything. You just pull in. And they're beautiful. They're in gorgeous areas.
And you can almost always count on getting a site there.
Yeah, so that was always good.
Which is great for spontaneity.
As long as you're out in the middle of nowhere.
As long as you don't mind being in the middle of nowhere.
You have to be out in the middle of nowhere for that to work out for you. Being by cities and stuff doesn't work out as well. But you have those sites. You have the Walmarts and the
casino parking
and places that you can just sort of park and sleep for the night for free. Then you have the state campgrounds, which often would provide water or an electric.
And they'd have a
or
dump.
just electric, but they would have a dump and they didn't provide the sewage.
Right.
Those were quickly becoming our favorite ones. And then, of course, you had the full-on camp RV resorts, which are gorgeous, but they cost you at least double.
And some of them are just parking lots with connections. So, yes, you're hooked up to water and sewage and electric and cable, but your slide is 2 feet from the guy next to you or even closer in some cases.
Yeah, one place we stayed at, it was just ridiculous. I felt so claustrophobic.
Yeah, our bumper was probably 8 inches from the guy behind us.
Yeah, I didn't like that. So we found that we really enjoyed state campgrounds.
Okay. And there's some good county and city campgrounds that are the same, if not better quality as a state.
Yeah. So
the question then was, how do you find these great campsites? You can go onto Google Maps and do a search for campgrounds, and that's fairly good. But there are apps that work much better at it for you. My favorite is Campendium, and we'll put a link in the show notes. Mm-hmm. Campendium is great. You tell it a city where you're going or landmark or zip code, whatever, and it'll populate the map with every campsite that it knows about, as well as dump sites, parking lots that allow RVs, everything. And it was never wrong as far as I could tell. Everything we looked at worked out perfect. If there's a website for that campground, it's got the link for it. It's got reviews from other campers who have used it recently. So you're not really going into it blind. And it really was helpful for finding campsites.
Okay, so the other thing about Google Maps, too, if you're using different apps, is that one of the things that we started doing, if we knew we wanted to, we like food, I think we've mentioned that once or twice on the podcast.
Streets and Eats.
Streets and Eats. We love food. And so we're always looking for the best chicken fried steak, the best Mexican food, the best dessert, the best ice cream, the best, you name it, we're looking for that at all times. Well, as you probably have realized, pulling a truck, pulling a trailer, going through some of these towns, it's not the best way necessarily to try and find the best food. So we had to work around that. One of the things we did was use Google Maps on satellite view.
Right. That way you can get a good view of what the parking lot's like, what the street is like. Can I get in and out of that parking lot?
Can I park behind it on the next block? Like where we were in some towns in the middle of Wyoming that there was, we're talking Wyoming. Nobody lives there. So there was plenty of street parking. We just pulled up right in front of the restaurant. Boom, we're there.
No problem.
But then, of course, we're in other parts of
where they don't believe in
like Denver.
That type of parking.
Well, in Denver, there's nothing free. There's no free parking in Denver. Right. If you prove me wrong.
Well, we found some, so.
But, it just was, we had to figure out a way we were going to this place. Where are we going
Can we get in and out with the camper, and can we park when we get there? Those are critical things.
Yeah.
So the satellite view is perfect for that on Google Maps.
And then the other thing we learned, and this is probably one of the, I think, most serendipitous things that happened to us, is way back when, before we got back to the States, and we were still living overseas, and we had this, this dream.
The road trip dream.
Yeah, the American road trip dream.
We're going to take secondary roads everywhere we go.
We're never going to get on an interstate. Ever. Well, that, of course,
It just doesn't, sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
There are no other ways to get over the mountains that are safe in a trailer, even though the interstates frighten the hell out of you.
Yeah, they really do.
You're not going to do it on a secondary road. So you have to do that.
Yeah. So you have the interstates, which we know. The good thing about an interstate is you don't really ever
You know what you're going to get.
You know what you're going to get. And you don't have stoplights or anything like that. So it is easier just to go on an interstate.
You have to deal with traffic.
And we did, at the beginning of the trip, just start only on interstates at first.
Well, yeah, because we had to get over the mountains. And so you're on the interstate and you think, okay, I'm on the interstate. It's working. Let's keep doing it. But then around Lewis and Clark Caverns.
Yes, that's where they started.
You have to get off the interstate, of course, to go there.
Which is in Montana.
Right. And then leaving there spontaneously, there's the word, we decide it's not in our trip plan, but we can work it out. Let's go to Yellowstone and at least drive through. We knew we wouldn't be able to camp.
Well, we knew there would be no reservations.
Like driving in that day and finding a campground in Yellowstone was a ridiculous thought. And we knew that wasn't the case. We did look it up, though. We did look it up. And there's a really cool app for Yellowstone National Park where you're for the campgrounds to see when things fill up. That day that we were there, every single campground was filled to the brim by 8:30 in the morning. We didn't even make the decision we were going until 3 in the afternoon. So, but we knew we couldn't.
But we knew.
We knew we weren't going to be camping there. But we also knew, thanks to Campendium, that there was a whole string of Forest Service campsites out the East Gate. So we knew we'd find a place.
Yeah, we weren't worried.
Those Forest Service places are boondocking,
which means no
hookups. Which also means, though, that they're probably not going to fill up and they're first come, first serve. So off we go down into secondary roads through Yellowstone. We camped at a Forest Service place on the outside the East Gate. No problem. We could have stayed at any number of them. It was a beautiful site.
The first one we checked was there. We stopped. We were tired.
Then from there, we kept on going. Secondary roads. Gorgeous views, no traffic.
No trucks.
Road conditions were beautiful, smooth, better than most interstates.
Yeah.
And pretty much from that point on, now this is kind of getting over the mountains. In the United States, there are roads, highways, state roads, county roads running parallel to the interstates that are as good, if not better, than the interstates.
Well, like I said, there's no trucks. That, for me, makes it better.
Right.
Those trucks can be scary.
So we kind of made that switch at that point, and we started.
And we tried that. So like Jim said, we didn't do it the whole way, but a lot of the way after we got over the Montana passes, for a lot of the way, we did as much as possible. Didn't drive on interstates. We drove on state roads, and we really enjoyed that. We saw the little towns. We enjoyed the farms. It seems like, and it's the same, really, it's the same landscape, but it seems like it's quainter and cuter, and there's more to look at.
Well, you're moving a little slower. You don't have to pay attention to the road conditions as much.
Yeah.
And finally, the last thing with using the secondary roads, what I found was, if I was looking for a route, I would compare the interstate driving time to the secondary road driving time. And what I found was
it was much closer.
Our driving time was a lot closer to what it would be on the secondary roads because you're driving the speed limit the whole time. And maybe even a little bit more, even though we're pulling a truck and trailer.
Because we didn't have a lot of the other stuff to deal with. All right. So that was pretty much our learning journey for buying and learning how to use a trailer as we move forward.
And really getting out there on a trip for a good, month and more than a month.
It was a month, yeah.
Of a lot of driving time and a lot of camping time. Yeah.
And of course we probably didn't do as much camping as we would like to have done. We'll be doing that during the year here as we spend another winter up here in the PNW. And I think we're going to really sort of come into our own, but we're just newbie RVers. And it is kind of funny when you pull into some of those places. These people come out of the woodwork. They want to know how much gas mileage you get. Like,
what's the weight of your trailer? Is that dry? Is that full?
I walk away. Jim is a little bit more patient. I can't handle this gear.
What's your hitch weight?
Where'd you get that? Did you make it from Denver? Well, No, none of that stuff really
Some of those
resonates
conversations
with me.
are a lot of fun, and you can really, I guess, spark some friendships that way.
I suppose. Yeah, maybe. So,
All right, let's wrap this up.
we're going to wrap it up. We really hope that you enjoyed this sort of different podcast that we had today.
Right.
Next week, we'll get back to telling you about some really cool destinations here in the States and overseas. And, of course, what to eat while you're there. We didn't get to do a lot of that on this one. However, thank you
for listening.
Thank you for listening to us and putting up with us and finding out how quirky we are as travelers and what our...
We appreciate all your support.
We definitely appreciate you. And we want you to we want to keep encouraging you to savor the adventure. Don't forget to subscribe. Please leave us a 5-star review. It makes all the difference in the world for us getting shown to other people. And again, thank you.
Keep listening.
Ciao for now.